Hey guys, my name is Kylie. As some of you may or may not know, is that I am going to school to be a special ed teacher, but mainly with emphasis on learning disabilities. But what some of you may or may not know is that I actually have a form of autism. So what I really want to do for this video is I want to talk about the basics of autism, mainly the definitions, the facts, statistics, so much more. But not only in a researcher's point of view, I want to tell you about it in my point of view, in my life with it, what autism has done for me in my past, my present, and hopefully my future. Most importantly, what I have done throughout this semester so far is I have talked to multiple people throughout my school and a few people in work, mainly with various relationships in my life. People who have known me for a couple years, some people who I've only known for about a semester or so, people who I have never met. So their relationships vary with me, but what also means they either knew I had autism, or some might have known, or some who had no idea I had it until I told them about it. But what I really want to start out with is the definition of it, and I want to start that with the people who I have interviewed.
I think it's something that makes someone different in a way that makes that person just care more about things, just be a little bit more passionate and cautious, and just makes them unique in a way that maybe everybody else should be like that.
My definition of autism, I guess I'd say, I feel like there are ranges into the intensity in which someone can have an autistic defect in. I think autism is just a social someone who has severe social problems, or someone that is very, just socially handicapped.
Sort of a spectrum of a cognitive mental disorder, but I hate the word disorder.
There's just a little bit of maybe a hesitant response to certain things, or not a hesitant response, but it's more like a little bit dramatized in the way that, like, you say something and their reaction is like maybe a little bit more drastic than a normal response to that, which isn't a bad response, it's just a little bit more energetic or a little bit more responsive than normal.
My definition of autism would probably be any student that falls on the spectrum, whether they struggle greatly or in smaller ways with learning and functioning socially.
My definition of autism is someone who faces challenges in life, but overcomes them in their own way.
I know it's like a mental disability where people aren't able to communicate as well with their peers.
It's a mental disability that affects how you socialize with others, and also how you learn in the classroom.
To me, it's like a medical condition where before you're even born.
Now, they all have very strong opinions and definitions on autism, but when it comes to dictionary.com, autism is a pervasive development disorder of children characterized by impaired communication, excessive rigidity, and emotional detachment, now considered one of the autism spectrum disorders. But some may think that autism and autism spectrum disorder are the same. I thought so too, actually. But with dictionary.com, autism spectrum disorder is any of the various disorders as autism and Asperger's syndrome, commonly manifesting in early childhood, characterized by impaired social or communication skills, repetitive behaviors, or restrictive range of interests. All this can vary on each person with autism, depending on their interests and their skills they have as well from this definition. It's not all exact. It's different from one person to the next. Throughout the time I want to show you about the facts that are given based on the definition of autism, and also from the facts that were given to me by the people I have interviewed.
Those who are autistic sometimes have the biggest hearts, and like they can be very beautiful inside, and they're just very sweet and caring.
I know that most autistic people are pretty dang smart.
They have such a beautiful way of expression, and I find it very uplifting, you know, when I'm like talking with someone, specifically this friend of mine, and I think that there's a lot to be learned from people who have autism because of the way that they respond to the world around them and the way that they address people in their lives and how they respond to situations or scenarios in their life.
I know that autism can affect both academic learning and social learning and interactions.
There could be limitations on some things, but there could be really good things on other subjects.
Now, when it comes to the strengths and limitations that Joseph has mentioned, all this can vary so well with one person to the next, with or without autism. And when it comes to the strengths for autism, there's attention to detail. We have deep thinking on the interests we have in our lives. We are very direct in our communication. We are loyal, we're honest, and all this can vary as well throughout the challenges and they can correlate with one another. And when it comes to the challenges, those skills can be quite uneven with our interests, and that can lead to a struggle in the interests that leads to skills that have no interest in us, and that part of it can be part of the social aspect in autism. That's why we have a hard time reading people that happen. We have to have our social rules written out or spoken out to us before we blur it out. Some of this can be varying from one person to the next as well for the signs of autism. Most of the common signs you would see is movement of the body, avoiding eye contact, avoiding physical contact. Those interests can be quite obsessive for some people, delay speech. All of it can vary, and these websites are from autismspeaks.org and the National Autism Association.org.
I know that the symbol for autism is a puzzle piece.
Now, Travis is right about the symbol of autism being a puzzle piece, because according to autismuga.wordpress.com, on a national level, the puzzle piece symbol reflects the mystery and complexity of autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Also, since every puzzle piece is different in some way, a puzzle piece accurately represents the diversity of the individuals affected. That's what it says from the website, and that's also the reason why I kept mentioning that the strengths, limitations, and the signs of autism can vary from one person to the next because of how complex autism is for each person and how it affects autism differently for each person, whether it's with someone with autism or someone who doesn't have it at all.
1/3 of the population of the U.S. population has autism.
I know Maylee is my best friend, but she might be just a little bit off with the ratio to be diagnosed with autism. In fact, when it comes to it, it actually did increase throughout the past decade or so, but not by 1/3 people to be diagnosed with autism. In fact, in 2000-2002, according to CNN, 1 in 150 people would be diagnosed with autism, and then 4 years later, it would be 1 in 125. Then later on in 2011, 1 in 88 children would be diagnosed with autism, and now today, the chance of being autistic would be 1 in 68 people would be diagnosed with autism. And this could be different with boys having autism and girls who have autism. For a boy to have autism, it would be a 1 in 42 chance. Compared to girls, it would be a 1 in 189 chance. And that means boys have literally 4.5 times higher chance to be diagnosed with autism than girls do.
Autism can be either easily shown or very subtle.
Now, when it comes to autism be easily shown or not as easily shown, that is the reason why autism is a spectrum disorder. And all that can lead to how severe it is to not as severe. And one of the least severe forms of autism is Asperger's syndrome. It mainly affects boys 3 times more as often as girls, according to WebMD.com. And that is more mild compared to other forms of autism because they are frequently have normal to above average intelligence, as Haley mentioned before. Unfortunately, when it comes to Asperger's syndrome, people with Asperger's syndrome would have a higher chance to be diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Now, the next form of autism that will be below Asperger's syndrome would be pervasive development disorder, or PDD, and when it comes to the autism symptoms in kids with PDD, it varies widely, making it hard to be generalized. And compared to children with other autistic spectrum disorders, and for that they would have impaired social interactions, better language skills than kids with autistic disorders, but not as well as those with Asperger's syndrome. So they're directly right in the middle in the severity in autism. Since PDD is right in the middle of Asperger's syndrome and autistic disorder is for children who meet more rigid criteria of a diagnosis of autism, and they have a more severe impairments involving social and language functioning as well as repetitive behaviors, and often have more of a mental retardation and seizures. And then the next severe form of autism will be Rett syndrome, and it's almost exclusively affecting girls, and it is a very rare condition of autism, and that is because 10 to 15,000 girls develop this severe form of autism between the ages of 6 to 18 months. And it stops responding socially and wrings their hands habitually and loses their language skills, coordination problems, and can become very severe. And when it comes to the severity of Rett syndrome, that can be usually by a genetic mutation, and they can happen at a random occasion, or it can be a hereditary issue that is from one parent or another. And then the last form of autism, which is also the most severe form of autism, is childhood disintegrative disorder, or CDD. And after a period of normal development, usually between the ages of 2 and 4, a child with CDD rapidly loses multiple areas of function. Social and language skills are lost, as well as intellectual abilities. Often the child develops a seizure disorder, and children with childhood disintegrative disorder are severely impaired and don't recover from their loss of function. And it's also one of the fewer forms of autism, because fewer than 2 per 100,000 children with the autism spectrum disorder meet the criteria of this form of autism, and boys are more affected to the disability than girls are.
There are certain people who have really successful lives with autism.
Now, when it comes to the people who have strong lives with their autism, that is actually quite common. And when it comes to the well-known people in InsiderMonkey.com, one of the most common well-known people with autism would be Temple Grandin, who is a very well-known autism activist and very well-known in the cattle industry on cattle handling, because that's actually one of her main focuses throughout her life in autism, and thinks so well in pictures. And throughout that time, she has earned herself a doctorate degree. I don't remember which one, I'm sure so many would know, and is a professor at the University of Colorado. Another well-known person would be Susan Boyle, who was on Britain's Got Talent long ago and had a very remarkable voice, and is probably one of the most well-known singers in Britain to this very day. Another very well-loved person with autism, who is one of my personal favorites, is James Durbin, who was on American Idol Season 10 and got 4th place throughout it. But not only was he diagnosed with autism, he also has a form of Tourette syndrome, and the reason why it's actually quite common for a person to be diagnosed with a second condition along with autism. All this is from the people who exist today and have a very strong understanding of what autism is. But what about back in the day before autism was even discovered? Well, there are some very well-known people who would be diagnosed with autism who would still be alive to this day, and one who would be the least expecting of all the people would be Albert Einstein. And according to autism.lovetoknow.com, he would be in the form of Asperger's syndrome, which is one of the least severe form of autism, because he had a tendency to repeat phrases and sentences, and his issues on childhood social development as well. But he did have a strong sense of humor, which is quite challenging for people in the spectrum. And another well-known person, whether it be in the past or present, that Joseph was quite specific about was his celebrity.
The guy who made Pokemon actually had autism.
At first I didn't believe him at first when he said the creator of Pokemon has autism, but according to AutismKey.com, he actually does have Asperger's syndrome, but he doesn't really want to talk about his condition with his autism to this day.
You have to learn how to communicate with people who have autism, and like, you have to stay patient, I guess, and know that they may talk a different way than you do, like have a different language for things.
A lot of people, are a little bit nervous when they have to confront someone with autism, or if they have to speak about it, they're kind of like, I don't know.
It affects everyone, and we really need to learn how to support each other and not, see past the title that we give give to these disorders and just accept people for who they are.
Dara and Kat could have said it better myself when it comes to communication of autism, since people with autism communicate so differently than other people around the world. There was actually an article by autismum.com on 10 tips on how to communicate with people with autism by a guest post of Steve Summers. Number 1, please always keep in mind that communication difficulties are common with autism. We have difficulties in reading social cues and body language. Be patient and understand. Number 2, we tend to think things literally and have often trouble reading between the lines. As a result, we may ask a lot of questions to clarify what is meant by something that you say. I have been told that I ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid by this. It is our way of being sure that we understand what you are telling us. We may repeat back to you in our own words to try and get on the same page as you. Number 3, if we misunderstand something that you say, please be patient and expand what you said and explain what you meant. Don't assume a negative or hostile intent from us if we misunderstand something that you said. Keep in mind that communication can be difficult for us. Things that come naturally to you take extra effort by us. Number 4, please don't get offended by our communication style. We tend to be frank, honest, and matter of fact. Some people may interpret this as blunt or rude. We don't intend to offend you by not sugarcoating the things that we say. We don't intend to be rude. Please don't get offensive or assume that we are attacking you. Remember that communicating is hard for us. Don't make negative assumptions. Too often we get corrected or attacked by someone who fails to give us some slack and the benefit of the doubt. Number 5, please don't expect eye contact. We may be able to force eye contact, but it's not comfortable for us. Making eye contact takes a conscious effort. This effort may take away from listening and understanding what you are saying. I tend to look at a person's mouth more often than their eyes. Other autistic people rarely look at your face. This is okay. Number 6, please keep in mind that we most likely have been rejected, excluded, ridiculed, or bullied in the past. If we seem anxious or insecure, this may be due to living in a world that misunderstands us, and it is often hostile to us. We have worked hard to reach out to others. Please work at reaching back to us with understanding and kindness. If we feel that you are ignoring us, we will feel bad about it. We may persist in asking for feedback from you. Please be reassuring and clearly express your support for us. Number 7, please don't speak down on us. Treat us as equals. We may sound flat or have an unusual tone in our voice. We may not speak with our voice at all. We may need to type our words. Please be patient with us. It may take us a while to formulate our answers. Number 8, please don't talk too loudly or yell at us. It is very jarring to us. It makes me jump when someone comes up and talks too loudly. It's like having someone jump out in the dark yell and boo at me. It causes an adrenaline dump in my body. I don't like this. Number 9, please do not touch us without warning. It will make us jump. We don't like unexpected touches. Number 10, please don't assume that we lack empathy or emotion. We pick up on negative or judgmental attitudes. We know when people look down on us or are hostile to us. We will shut down if you show us a lack of respect. I think when it comes to these steps that were written by Steve Summers, it is very, very straightforward when it comes to communication with autism, especially that he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome as a young adult. After they were each given the effect, I asked them if they knew someone in their life with autism, since autism is actually one of the fastest growing disabilities in the US, and the results I got were actually pretty amazing.
I have a friend who's autistic. He's not severely autistic, but you can tell by the way he interacts with people that he has a problem and that he's just not like everyone else. But he can read, he can write, he can write papers, he's capable just like anyone else. He just has a little social defect in his.
Yeah, I've got a couple friends from high school that have autism.
I have a good friend who has a brother who has autism, and he's one of the most sweetest souls.
One of my friends has it, and he's cool.
I know one other kid. He's a very good person, and he just has a lot of he has a lot of struggles with school and with making friends, but he's a really good kid. So.
Turns out almost all of them knew someone with autism in their life, and they all had nothing but good things about them, and I was really happy with that. But I think the hardest part of this whole video process was actually telling them that I had autism myself, and their reaction to it is quite surprising.
From what I can tell from you, I can't tell.
No, I didn't know that.
No, I would have never known.
Never have guessed that. Wow, I would never have guessed that actually. Wow. No, I would never have been able to tell that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Maybe I wasn't there that day. I know I was gone one day.
All of those reactions were the people who didn't really know about my autism, and I just decided to do a different reaction to those who knew about it if they were surprised about the whole situation with my autism in the first place.
I wouldn't have expected that if you hadn't told me.
When you told me, I kind of was like, oh, autism, okay, like what is that? I didn't know much about it. I wasn't shocked or anything because I didn't know much about it, but once you explained it, it made sense. I didn't know how severe your autism was or anything like that, but I feel like you work so hard and you do well socially, so I really was surprised.
It doesn't change the way I look at you. I still find you absolutely beautiful.
I just thought you were a normal person. You know, we met when we were young, and I just thought you were just living a normal life. I wasn't shocked at all.
A perfectionist. Like, I thought you were just like a little more careful than most people.
It's not quite as apparent as some other people that have a deeper or a more serious case.
Now, the reason why my autism isn't as apparent as most people, as Kat has mentioned, is because my autism is from Asperger's syndrome, and I guess I would say it was pretty much there from the moment I was born. I was born on July 15, 1993, but I was actually born 2 months premature, so the consequences of that is that my lungs weren't fully developed, so I ended up being in the NICU for about a month or so in my life. And with that, the doctors would mention to my family that I wasn't supposed to walk or talk, but throughout the time, my family actually defined that doctor and led to the changes in my life. At the time, my parents would teach me to do sign language so I can have a form of communication with people in my life, and they would also take me to physical therapy to help me have a stronger body throughout my life as well. But that also led to the discovery of me having cerebral palsy at the age of 2, which led to the reason for my lungs being underdeveloped because oxygen wasn't in my brain long enough, and that was the reason for my body to be hard to control sometimes, and my hips are actually crooked. So my hips are a little crooked compared to one another, and when I walk, it rubs against each other, my bones, so it makes it hard for me to do more vigorous activities. Then at the age of 4, that's when I said my first word. It was also around the time I was diagnosed with my Asperger's syndrome. So what my parents have decided to do is they decided to take me to a brand new school that has one of the best autism programs. And I believe they were right as well because I had some of the best teachers there, and they helped me out so much throughout my physical therapy, through my speech therapy, and so much more in social interactions and just school in general. And I believe they were the best teachers in the world as a young kid, and I would always say when I grow up I want to be just like them and be a teacher. But part of my life did change when I had to move to a new town when I was 10 years old. See, at the age of 10, I had to move to a new town, and being the new kid is hard enough as it is, but being with the new kid with autism, that makes it even harder because they will ridicule you more and more as it goes. And I was ridiculed for being autistic in my life, and that led to being bullied and teased and actually being used in my life. And what I mean by being used, that they would only talk to me by having help with the homework assignment because I was one of the smartest kids at the time, and that was literally the only time they would ever talk to me. And it gotten so bad by the age of 16 I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety as well, but anxiety was more thorough through my life, but that's when it got more serious as well. But I think with the help of being diagnosed with depression, and led me to become who I am and what I want to be, but that's not the only reason it helped me be a stronger person. There are much more reasons on why I'm a stronger person. Because at the age of 10, that's when I discovered choir and singing, and that helped me so much with my confidence as well. But I think the biggest confidence in my life is when I was 14 and a friend of mine at the time asked me to audition for a show in the theater program, and I did, and it was one of the best choices I've ever made, because in choir and theater as well, your family there, you don't get judged for who you are and being different, because being different there is one of the best things you could ever be. Because being part of the theater program and being diagnosed with autism, depression, anxiety, and so much more, it made me realize that these kids today, they don't know what it's like to have autism or to live with it. So that's the reason why I decided at the age of 17 to talk to my counselor and tell them that I want to teach kids about autism and my life with it. That is the main reason why I'm going to school, to be a teacher and to be an autism activist. Now, I know my autism will have a positive impact on my future, to have a stronger connection for me and my kids in the future, but I want to know throughout Kaylee, Haley, and Maylee if they think my autism has a positive or negative impact, since they know about my autism and they have known me for quite some time as well.
Honestly, depends on how you take it.
You're using it to help other people. You want to be a teacher and help other kids with autism, so I think that's really great, and I think that's it definitely has an effect on your future.
I think for you, definitely, that it's a positive impact because of what you want to pursue as an educator. You're able to greater relate to your students and to their families, and you can really just share your story and your experiences.
If you let it take over you, then it will have a negative impact on your life, but if you overcome it and I guess achieve it, then it'll have a positive impact on you.
I think if you weren't autistic, maybe you wouldn't be going down that path that makes you want to help people.
I'm so happy that they think that I'm going to have a positive impact on my future with my autism, and for me to have a better connection with my students, and especially that I think Haley is right. If I didn't have autism, I don't think I would be going down this path at all for my future. Thank you for watching this video, and if you want to see more videos to come, whether it be vlogs, reading videos, and more, don't forget to subscribe below. And if you want to read any of the articles that I have mentioned before, the links will be down in the description of all the articles. And also, if you have any questions at all about anything, don't forget to post a comment as well. But overall, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and hope you enjoyed this video.